StrayAllDay.com.
Now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is three-step process for any achievement. Now, before I get into this, let me remind you of two things that you should know about. Number one, my daily motivation and Monday motivation text, which go out every day and every week, respectively, guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point. You get these messages by being a member of my texting community. If you are not yet a member, you can fix that very easily by texting me at my number, 305-384-6894. And once we start sending those messages again, which as of this recording, they're not going out, but once we do start sending them again, you get an auto response from our bot to let you know you're in our text community. And once we start sending them again, if you're already in, you'll get a message from us letting you know, hey, the message is about to start again. And then you'll have options as to how often you want to receive the messages, et cetera, just as a simple text message to your phone, guaranteed to do what I said they're going to do. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That is, and by the way, that number is down below in the description, as is the link to Work on Your Game University. That's the place where we do all our coaching. We have a coaching program in the university where you can be coached directly by me. That's the only place I do any coaching. We have group coaching options. We have some direct consulting options. All of that is happening at the university. So just go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. You can see a full description of what we are doing, how we're doing it, testimonials, case studies, feedback from people who we are working with right now, people who we have worked with in the past, and you can get yourself started in the university all in one fell swoop at one place, workonyourgameuniversity.com. That link is also in the description to wherever you are listening to this, or just type in workonyourgameuniversity.com into your favorite web browser. Now, getting into this topic, the three-step process for any achievement. This show right here is designed for high achieving people who are looking to accomplish things. All right, I'm thinking that's you. So today, let's talk about or recap the key steps to achieving anything. All right, just even if you know these already, or you think you know them already, let's remember what they are to achieve anything in any aspect of life. We need to remind ourselves of these things on a consistent basis. So I want to remind you to remind yourself to not discount anything that maybe you have heard before or thought of before or consumed or even said to yourself before, because how many things do we know that we've heard before in our lives? Probably a lot, but how many of them do we consciously think about on a regular basis? And how many of them do we have burned into our subconscious? Much fewer than the amount of things we've actually consumed. So there are many times that I will read something or hear something that somebody says, and they're talking about something that is not a completely new concept to me, but they either have a different way of saying it, or they are saying it or actually they're saying it in such a way that it reminds me, you know what, that is a good point. That is something that I've heard before. It's not like it's a brand new idea to me, but I'm glad this person said it because it brings it to the top of my mind. It makes me conscious about it. Whereas I was aware of it before, but I wasn't consciously aware of it. I wasn't actively thinking about it. So I needed this person to remind me. Accountability is one of the places where that comes in. It's not like any of you doesn't know, hey, if I want to work out in the morning every day, I probably got to wake up early and get up when the alarm goes off. Most of us know that, but are you actually doing it? Those are two different things. So some things I share here today, maybe something that you have heard before, thought of before, considered before, maybe even done before, but do not discount it, because just because you have heard something or quote unquote know it doesn't mean you're applying it. And in the world that we're in today, let's remember what business we're in, folks. Two businesses, a performance-based and a results-based business, not a knowing things-based business. What you know means nothing if you're not putting them to actual use. All right, so we got to remind ourselves of these things. So don't become too smart for the fundamentals, because the fundamentals are the foundation of all accomplishments. Point number one, the topic once again today is the three-step process for any achievement. Number one thing you have to do to achieve anything. Anybody know the answer? You must begin. You must actually start. First step towards achievement in anything in life is you must begin. You must actually do something. You can't achieve anything without starting. All right, is there anything you could achieve in life without starting? I mean, you could achieve failure, you could achieve stagnation, but anything that is measurable and tangible and that you actually want, can you achieve it by doing nothing at all? No, of course not. Now, why would I put such a quote unquote common sense concept as the first point of today's episode? Why would I do that? Why waste time talking about something so simple and so basic as you must get started? Let me answer that question and tell you why. I'll answer it by asking you some questions. How many things do you have on your current list of things to be done that you have not yet started doing? Let me take a sip of water while you think about it. How many things do you have on a list, your list of things that need to be done by you or by someone around you or by someone in care of you? They're doing it on your behalf. It just needs to be done, period. And it affects your life. How many things do you have on that list that have not yet been begun? They have not yet started. Okay, it's more than zero, right? Okay. How many things do you know that you need to get to doing eventually, but you have not done anything for it yet? I mean, you are literally at, if 100% means the thing is completely done, you are at zero. How many things? All right, how many people here? The answer is none, zero. You got everything that you're supposed to get done eventually in your life. You have at least started it. How many of you have nothing that is still sitting in the garage waiting to get pulled out onto the road, but you've got everything at least somewhat in motion? May not be completely completed, but every single thing that you want to get done in life is in motion in some way, shape, or form. I know from my experience, I've dealt with enough people to know that the answer is probably zero. None of you. None of you can say that you are batting 1,000 on this, that every single thing you know you want to do, you have begun taking some action towards making it happen. Everybody here has an answer above zero, right? Which means all of us need to be reminded of this simple principle because all of us are violating it right now. All of us are in violation of this principle right now, that in order to achieve something, we must start. You cannot achieve anything without starting. You may not be good when you start. You may fail when you start. You may get turned back and sent back to where you came from when you start. But if you do not start, it's impossible for you to finish. Remember that ideas are worthless without implementation. All right, ideas are a dime a dozen. Many people come up with a ton of ideas, but the implementation is the thing that actually matters, not the idea itself. Because the idea doesn't become real until something is implemented and there's something tangible that we can feel, see, watch, touch, taste, etc. How many ideas have you not yet gotten started on, and how many of those ideas that you have not yet started on are on your schedule or on your calendar today, literally written down for you to begin? That's a good question, right? How many things do you have on your calendar that you know you need to do? I mean, how many things do you have in your mind that you know you need to do, or in life you know you need to do, but they're not on the calendar for you to actually do? And then just because they're on the calendar, are you doing them? Are you following your own calendar? See, now you understand why I need to say what I'm saying in today's episode. See, many of us have ideas, we have thoughts, we have possibilities of things that we could do, but very few of them get put into action, and there are very few people, period, who actually put anything into action that we think about. What we usually do as human beings, and I can attest that this applies to people who are high level performers, high money earners, business owners, down to athletes and students and people trying to find their ways, that it doesn't matter what level of success or accomplishment the person has. This is a universal thing that is a truth amongst people, is that many of us just get into a routine, a habit, unconscious habit of just doing things by default, the things that we normally do, our everyday things, which are not necessarily bad things, but in doing those routine, habitual, everyday things, we never consciously move ourselves to go do the new things or the other things or implement the changes that we say we want to bring to life, because we get so caught up in doing the habitual things. We do habits so much that we never get around to the new stuff. And while I'm saying that, I'm thinking about some new stuff that I need to actually get done today, some phone calls that I got to make that I want to make sure I make today after I get done recording the show. Because recording the show is one of the habitual things that I do over the course of my life. But so the habitual things, again, as I said, are not necessarily bad. Some of the habitual stuff that we do usually are for our personal care, they're for our business, for our careers. We usually need to get them done because somebody got to do them. And often it's our job to do them and our responsibility. So I'm not saying you're wrong for doing those things, but if you never schedule in some time to do the new thing, well, nothing's going to change. You're just going to keep doing the same stuff. Which is why many people end up not having accomplishments, because they never do anything different. They just keep doing the same stuff. So you will have accomplishments in that stuff, but if you want anything other than what you've been getting, then of course you got to do something different than what you've been doing. All right, you must begin. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is the 3-step process for any achievement in life. So everybody agrees that we got to eventually start something. We have to actually start in order to achieve, right? Okay, now what's step number 2? Step number 2 is follow through. Follow through. What does that mean? After you start, you have to do all the rest of the actions that are meant to be taken. So we know that there's a starting point of something, then there's all the stuff that happens in the middle, and then it's the completion, whatever that happens to be. Well, this is the stuff in the middle. Follow through is all the stuff in the middle. This one can be a bit trickier because sometimes you may not know what the next actions are that you should be taking. Sometimes you may find yourself lost, stuck, or ignorant when it comes to what do I need to do in order to make this thing happen. So let's say you wanted to do something like, I was just listening to a training program. It was one of Dan Kennedy's old training programs, and he was talking about people booking if they wanted to have a conference, they wanted to throw their own seminar. He said, well, the first step is you got to just book the venue where you're going to have your seminar. Now you put yourself on a hook, and now you got to fill up that room and sell some tickets and get people in the room. The follow through part might be trickier because people may not know what to do. Okay, I went and booked it. I called the Holiday Inn around the corner, and I booked their conference room, and it can seat 50 people. All right, so now I got a venue with 50 people, and I got a date. All right, now I got to get 50 people to buy tickets to come to my event. Well, I don't even know what the event's going to be. I don't know who's going to speak there. I don't know. Well, you know when it is, and you know where it is because you got the venue already and you got the dates. You don't know how you're going to sell any tickets. You don't know what the price of tickets. You don't know how to make a sales page for it. You don't know how to make a landing page. You don't know how to run ads. You don't know anything. All that stuff is the stuff in the middle. And often people, even if they do move themselves to start something, they do not know how to follow through because they simply don't have the information as to what to do in the middle of all of this. That's bad news, but it's also good news. There's also some good news that comes with it. The reason why this is good news is because the information that you need in order to follow through and do the middle activity stuff, that stuff is already available because all you got to do is go find someone or multiple someones who have already done the thing that you're looking to do, because you're probably not doing something that has never been done before in history. There's at least remnants of it that have been done somewhere else at some time else by someone else. All you got to do is tap into what they did and they'll give you the information. Often those people are actively looking to give you the information. They want to help you do it. So if we just continue with this example, if I wanted to book a venue, I want to throw my own conference, there are people out there who teach how to throw conferences, how to book hotels, how to book seminars, how to sell tickets to live events, how to do these things. There are people who literally teach people how to do this. They are giving this information away. They want you to know it. They're doing podcasts, they're doing YouTube, they're selling books, they're selling courses, they're doing coaching. They are teaching people exactly how to do this. They'll even do it for you if you pay them enough money. So none of us is completely at a loss when it comes to the follow through stuff, because again, even if you're doing something that as a whole is unprecedented, it's never been done, the actual component pieces of it, none of those, let me not say none of them, it's not like every single thing you're doing is a brand new thing that's never been thought of or conceived before in human history. So maybe you're the first one to do the type of event that you're doing in the type of space that you're doing it for, the type of audience that you're doing it for. But each one of those things has been done before. So all you have to do is take pieces from each one and apply them to what you're doing. If you're at a loss for information, if that's your problem. So none of you is actually at a loss for information. You're just at a loss for doing the work required to follow through, which is why the follow through is a hard part, which is why it's the second point here. So it can be a little tricky because, again, you may not know, but an information gap, an ignorance challenge is easily solvable in the world that we live in today because we have access to 99% of the world's known information completely for free. 99% of the world's known information is available to every one of us for free. If you're listening to this, that means you have access to the internet somehow, some way. All right, so 99% of the world's known information is available to you at no charge. I'm pausing there because I want that thought to sink in. So once you get started, now you need more and better information so that you can take the right steps. So getting started is usually pretty simple. There's something you can do. You don't have to know much to know. You can do something to put yourself started. All right, you just got yourself started. Now you need to actually know what to do so you don't use too much of your resources trying to figure things out. So where do you get this more and better information? I just told you. Sometimes you may already have it. If you don't already have it, there are other things that you can do, as I just mentioned. There are already people already giving it away. The internet has it. Now you got to know what to look for. But again, there are people who can help you figure that out. AI can maybe point you in the right directions. All of this stuff is freely available to you, folks. The good thing about today's world is that you can access other people and their knowledge very easily, very quickly, and often relatively cheaply. So when I say relatively cheaply, I'm referring to the ROI you get on the other side of accessing it. So when I say cheaply, that's what I mean. Cheaply is not a dollar amount. So for example, if you were to invest $10,000 in someone else's idea, or getting inside someone else's world, not their idea, but $10,000 into someone else who's going to help you make your idea come to life, and they actually know how to do it, and they have the insights and the strategies and the processes and the thoughts and the help, let's just call it the guidance, to help you get your idea off the ground and get it working. And that idea, when it comes to fruition, is going to make you $100,000 or more. Well, is $10,000 relatively cheap? Yes, it is. Is $10,000 a cheap amount of money to invest in earning $100,000? That's my question to you. If your answer is yes, which it should be, because you're talking about a 10x return on investment, and let's even say within a year. So you're gonna make $100,000 in a year. All you gotta do is invest $10,000 now. Would you do it? Okay, almost everybody would do it. That's simple mathematics. So is that a relatively cheap investment? Yes, it is. You make $90,000 on a $10,000 investment. How many times would you do that if you could? Okay, so one of the big challenges with follow through, in addition to simply consistently doing whatever the job is, as we already talked about, is the lack of understanding or insight or strategy as to what you're going to do to follow through. And this is what stops a lot of people from starting. They say, okay, well, I know I could start, but then I wouldn't know what to do after that. Again, this is just a knowledge gap. It's an ignorance challenge. Ignorance simply meaning not to know. And again, in the world we live in today, you can tap into other people's resources, which means you must first accept to tap into other people's resources and to tap in and be all in, and to get the knowledge that you really need, and to be a student of another person being the teacher. Because we got to remember, there are times in life when you need to have the confidence of a teacher, but there are also times when you need to have the humility of a student. I talked about this in episode 14, 15. Confidence of a teacher, humility of a student. You must first accept that your resources, meaning what you know and what you can do and how you think, have taken you as far as you can go in this specific area. All right, I've gone as far as I can go on my own. Now let me tap into someone else. And why do you need to have this understanding before you tap into someone else? Why do I suggest this? Why not go into it thinking that maybe you know a lot, but this person can help as well? Why do I say that? Here's why I say that. Because if you go into tapping into someone else's resources while still holding up yourself as, well, I know maybe just as much as they do, so I'm going to take a couple pieces from them, but then if I hear them say something and I think something, I'm going to go with what I think. I think this is a dangerous approach, simply because you're not going to go all in with what this person is sharing. If you have chosen correctly the person to whom you are positioning yourself with whom you're positioning yourself as a student, their approach will help you get to the goal faster than you just taking the pieces that are comfortable for you and ignoring everything else. I would suggest you take the entire approach holistically and just follow what they're telling you. That's what I would suggest you do. But again, this requires you to have the humility of a student. And what I found, again, in my experience working in the space that I work in, is that a lot of times people show up with their ego out in front, and they're thinking more about what they know, or trying to prove what they know, or just deferring to what they know, when what you know has already gotten you to a certain point that you have already admitted you don't want to be at anymore. You want to go past the point that you know. So how about we just stop deferring to you and your knowledge, and you just submit yourself to what somebody else knows. Maybe their approach will get you there better. Let's remember what business we are in, folks. This is not the serve your ego business. This is the performance and results business. So whatever produces the result is what your affiliation should be to. Not your feelings, not what you think, not what you believe is the better idea, not your opinion. None of those is the result. But if you don't submit yourself to whatever it is that you're planning on jumping in, or you're saying you're going to jump in, well, you won't get the results because you're not even committed. You are not fully committed to the thing that you're doing. So of course you're not getting the results. So if you don't fully commit, how are you expecting anybody else to commit? This is how it works, folks. And here's the thing about life, and especially in business, is that until you're fully committed, you're not going to get commitment back. You can't get full results without a full focus. Without a full buy-in, you won't get full ROI. It doesn't work. That's not a good math, not good algebra. You know, in algebra, they say whatever you do to one side of the equation, you got to do to the other side. Okay, that's you. And when it comes to your commitment, if you're not fully committed, of course you're not getting full results because you ain't committed. You're halfway in. You got 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and then wondering why you're not getting all the results from the 1 foot that you have in, because you don't have both feet in the game. Of course you're not getting results. What do you expect? Sooner you come to this understanding, the faster you can get to the goal. Challenge is many people don't want to put both feet in because it feels risky to them. It is a risk. And in case any of you didn't know, we're talking about business, for example. Definition of an entrepreneur is a person who runs a business enterprise while taking on greater than normal risk financially. That's the definition of the word. So you are afraid of risk, or you don't want to go all in because it feels risky. Okay, don't be an entrepreneur. You don't need to be. Same for everybody. Entrepreneurship is for people who want to take risks and they're okay with risk. And remember what I told you, the two things you need to be a great entrepreneur, two most important attributes. You need big balls and a strong stomach. And there are a lot of people who want to play an entrepreneurship game with a weak stomach and no balls, and then wondering why it's not working. I'm going to let that point sink in. Many people are extremely slow at coming to this understanding about how to fill your knowledge gaps, that is, was the main reason why they don't move forward. Because to move forward, you need a strategy, and you need a strategy that actually works to produce a result. And sometimes you are not the best provider of that strategy. And as long as you can accept that, then you can humble yourself to be a student to someone else's strategy. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is the 3-step process for achieving anything. So you start it, you follow through, and what's the third step? I already gave it away to you. The third step is completion. The task actually being done. Completion is when it's done, the job is finished, and you know it's done. Now the question is, how do you know the job is done? How do you know the job is finished? How do you know? When can you check the box and say, this is done because I have achieved A, B, C? This is a question that you must be able to answer because it should have been part of your strategy from the very beginning. Part of your planning is knowing how you have completed the job. If you don't have a way of measuring the completion of the job, then the job may never be done. Remember that plans are useless, but planning is priceless. This is the reason why you plan, so that, okay, we know once we do A, B, C, the job's done. But without A, B, C, the job's not done. The reason why I say plans are useless, planning priceless, is because the time we spend thinking about how things will go before we start will save us a lot of time in the process once we actually start moving. So what changeable measurements are you using to know you have completed, or tangible rather, measurements are you using to know that you have completed the job, or that you have completed a certain part of the job, or all right, phase 1 is done, so now we're moving on to phase 2. All right, you need to know what that is. So for example, I just got an email today because I am not technically, but I am officially a resident of Miami Beach. So whenever Miami Beach is sending out emails or messages to their residents about things, I get the messages. So I got this email from the city of Miami Beach, and they're talking about this road reconstruction project that they're doing in the north part of Miami Beach. And they're explaining that this project, over the course of, is starting in, I'm recording this in spring of 2024, excuse me. So in the month of May, the project is going to start, like late May, the project is going to start. And for 1 month, these certain roads are going to be closed while they're doing the construction. And then after that is another 6 weeks where other roads are going to be closed so they can do more construction. And then after that is another like 4-month period where more roads are going to be closed. And they're giving you the map, and they're showing you the map. Like, okay, so in phase 1, these parts are going to be 1 lane instead of 2 lanes, and this street is going to be closed off except for local traffic, and this road is going to be closed completely from this time of day to that time of day. The whole point is, and they're telling you in phase 1 will be like this, phase 2 is going to be like this, phase 3 is going to be like that, and the project is scheduled to start on this day. Phase 1 ends here, and then phase 2 goes here to here, then phase 3 goes here to here, and the job is completed by this date. What's the whole point, folks? They're planning. They have planned the work ahead of time. Now, is it going to happen exactly as they planned? I highly doubt it. But they have taken the time to plan. So they know when they are over budget, over plan, late, early, on schedule, etc., because they have a plan. Many of us, we go to work and just start doing stuff with no plan. We don't know when phase 1 is done, phase 2, phase 3. We don't have any phase. We just do stuff until we die. Literally working ourselves to death with no plan. This is how too much time gets given to any particular process or endeavor, because we don't have a clear end game. We don't know when the game is actually over because we never thought about it from the beginning. We just start doing stuff and hope we figure it out and hope it works out. If you don't have answers to this question, you have no way of knowing when you're finished. How do you know when you're done? How do you know when the job's done? It needs to be measurable. It needs to be something tangible that we can check the box, yes or no. If you can't check the box, yes or no, then you don't have a clear plan. And you need a clear plan before you start. It's much easier to do if you're in the gym. I remember when I was working with my trainer, Maria, during my basketball days. And sometimes I would get annoyed in the middle of workout because she would tell me to do a certain movement, like some exercise, and I'm doing the exercise, and this is off the court stuff. And she'd be having me do something, who knows? It could be some kind of jumping movement or burpees or side to side slides or something like that. And she was a very good trainer. She really knew her stuff. But sometimes she would have me do a movement and I would say, well, how many am I going to do? And she would say, well, just keep going. And I'll tell you when to stop. And I hated that because I need to know when to stop. See, if I know I got to do 10, then I can give you a hard 10. But if you say, just keep doing it, I'll tell you to stop. I might not go as hard during it because I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this. So I'm trying to conserve energy. So am I doing 100 or am I doing 10? I need to know. And sometimes she wouldn't tell me, and I would voice that to her and express that to her. And when people know exactly what they need to do and they know the phases, then it's much easier to do the work because we know when we need to stop. So when I work out, for example, by myself, I will know I'll either go by number of repetitions or how much time. Either way, I need a signal of knowing when I'm done. It's like when I'm running, I know what distance I'm running. Okay, if I know I'm running 6 miles and I'm about to run a 10K race this upcoming week that I'm recording this, if I know that the 10K is 6.25 miles, I know exactly how I need to ration out my energy during the race. So the first mile and second mile, I'm pretty much pacing myself. I'm not pushing at all. Third mile, maybe pick it up just a little bit, but not much. When we get to about the halfway point, let's say about 3 miles, that's when I start to pick up the pace. And then once we hit mile 4, that's when I'm going. I'm gassing out. So I'm okay with feeling a little bit, not a little bit, or even a considerable amount of fatigue after I hit the 4-mile marker, because I know I only got 2.25 miles left and I'm willing to push. And I'm willing to push even harder than I would even in my training during those last 2 miles, because this is the race. I mean, this is the reason I did all the training to get ready for the race. But the point is I know exactly how far I got to go. So I know where I want to push. I know where I want to slow down. I know I'm going to speed up. Either way, it's a signal. I know when the end is. So you got to know what distance you're going, so to speak, folks. And if you're running and there's no finish line, there's no flag, but you're doing it yourself, you got to know your endpoint. When are you done? So when I run outside, let's say like from home, and I'm just running by myself, I know exactly what the route is and exactly what the distance is, how much distance I will have covered if I go down this street, then turn here, then curve over here. I know exactly how far it is. I know exactly how much distance I'm going to cover when I follow this particular route. I got multiple routes that cover different distances. I know exactly what I'm doing. The whole point is you have to know. Okay, so what are your marks for completion? That's it. Let's recap today's class. A 3-step process for any achievement. Number 1, you must start. You can't achieve anything if you do not begin. Many of us have a bunch of things that we want to do, but we have never actually begun. So there's no mystery as to why they have not happened. Number 2, follow through. It's easy to get started on things. So something that many people don't do, even though it's easy. But then the follow through part. How do we make sure that we actually see it through until it's done? Well, that is where you may need some outside information or outside insight or access that comes out from outside of your own head, because you may not know exactly how to do it, which might be the cause of the resistance in the first place. The good news is you can solve that problem by tapping into other people's knowledge, insight, and information, which is, for the most part, readily available. And often people want you to come find them because they want to help you. Number 3, completion. How do you know when the job is done? If you're lifting weights, how many reps you're doing? How many sets are you doing? If you're running, how far are you going? Where's the finish line? You need to know when the job is completed so that you know when to stop. One of the biggest challenges that many human beings have is that we start things without thinking about when is it over. This is why we tell you planning is priceless, even though the plans themselves are useless, because the plans never get followed exactly to a T. They never go exactly as we expect. But the fact that we took time to plan them helps us have a parameter and a what's the word I'm looking for? A barometer for how far along we are, how things should be looking at this time, and if we're on schedule, on track, or not. With all that said, make sure you text me so you're in my community. My number's down below in the description. Also, workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's the place where I do all my coaching. If you'd like to have me as a direct coach to help you map out where you're going and what you're doing, like I just helped you do here, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all